I'm bored. I'm kind of, had enough of this lockdown and stuff. But we got to be sensible, and we got to look after everyone and our health.
Yeah. How's the family coping with this whole lockdown, this gridlock? We don't really know what's gonna kind of happen the next few weeks to months. Everyone's kind of in a bit of a pickle. How have you guys been coping as a family?
That's it. To be honest, we've not been too bad, I don't think, compared to others. We've got quite a tight family, so we're all staying in touch and everything over social media and WhatsApps and FaceTime and whatnot. But I live with my parents and my fiance, so other than kind of lacking seeing my niece and my nephew, nothing's been too bad. I really do hope that after this extra 3-week lockdown, there might be some sort of way of the restrictions kind of coming down a little bit, so we could see some of our close family and friends. Because I just miss socializing. I miss even just shaking someone's hand or giving someone a hug. It's weird. Staying 2 meters apart from everyone, it is a weird time. And if you had asked me about this 6 months ago, I would have said you were lying.
Yeah, I think the quick turnaround kind of from Christmas, everyone's with their families, they're enjoying Christmas, they're enjoying all the trimmings, all the turkey, ham. But now, obviously, into a new year, we never really kind of envisaged this happening. I don't think any of us will experience this probably in our lifetime, besides what's going on now. I think it's just one of those bizarre moments where we kind of all just have to take a step back and actually observe what's going on. When this whole coronavirus pandemic arose, with the UFC being such a renowned company for consistency, having shows, all the time across the world, how much of an effect do you feel like it had on you as a fighter, but also a normal human being like anyone else?
Well, obviously, luckily for me, I just fought in February. So, obviously the UFC has cancelled all their upcoming events at the moment and stuff, but I got to get a fight just before this. So, I'm grateful for that. Obviously, we have to look at the blessings we've got, So as I said, me and my family, we're healthy. We could be in a lot worse position than we are now. So, I'm grateful that I got to be able to compete just before the lockdown. And the UFC is a promotion that they do a lot for their fighters, in the sense where they try and put shows on. They want the fighters to compete. And there's rumours at the moment about this Fight Island and, Dana White renting it out for the fighters to be able to compete. And that, to me, says a lot about the UFC. There's a lot of sports out there which, they don't really care about their employees as such. And, if obviously Dana White gets hold of this Fight Island, and that means we're still able to earn a living. We've got to compete to get paid. So, I'm hoping that they do come up with something, but I know at the moment it's very hard, and, I can't imagine it's easy for the UFC.
100%. I will come on to talk about the business side of the sport. Obviously, with this whole lockdown, it's going to have a massive impact on shows, on the sort of audiences that attend these shows, because I think now they're talking about a behind closed doors scenario where 2 fighters are going to come, similar to the Contender Series, where you have a minuscule amount of people, watching. But do you feel like, as someone who's I'm sure a massive fan of the sport, but also being in the sort of the blood and flesh of the sport, what that could do to the future of the business, the UFC, not having these regularity of shows?
It's so hard to tell. It really is. Obviously with the as you said, the events there that would be held behind closed doors, they would still obviously get a shit ton of money from, I guess, TV deals, pay-per-view. People are at home, they've got nothing to do, so they're still going to tune in and watch it. Yeah. Obviously, they won't be able to make any ticket sales, but I can't imagine a promotion like that relies on the ticket sales that much. But, it's so important that the UFC just keep the momentum going, because we can't, I guess, the longer we wait, the worse it is for everyone. But that's the thing with the situation at the moment, is that every day things are changing, and it's so hard to tell where we're going to be in a week's time or a month's time. I'm hearing rumours about us being in lockdown for months. I'm hearing things about, this is going to affect us for the next year. So it is scary times. I'm just glad I'm healthy. I've got enough money to kind of last me a little bit of you know, not being able to obviously fight and work. I've got some amazing sponsors behind me that are, you know, they're keeping me afloat. So for me, that's the main thing.
Yeah. Let's go right back to the start, the grassroots. Talk to me about where the journey started for you in terms of competitive sport and also mixed martial arts. Where did the love for MMA come from? Like, what made you want to get into the sport?
For me, I've always been a fan of every sport. You know, when I was in school, if whatever we're doing in PE, you know, I'd be very good at it. I've always been a kind of physical, athletic kid. I did a bit of kickboxing when I was about 10 for a couple of years, but then I stopped because it clashed with my football times, and I wanted to play football at the time a lot more than I did fighting. But it actually came when I was either 15 or 16, and I was doing some work on a building site. And I remember just thinking, man, I do not want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And, you know, for me, I've always wanted to do a sport for a living. And that's no specific sport. I love the idea of being an athlete. And at the age of 16, there's not many sports out there that you can start and make a career out of. You know, usually footballers are already kind of being scouted at that age. If you're a boxer, you know, you've probably had a hell of a lot of amateur fights by then. And then I was watching the UFC at the time anyway with my dad, and who's also been into martial arts for years. And I was watching, I think it was Demetrius Johnson at the time, and he was saying how he didn't start till he was 19. And I remember just sitting there thinking, if this guy can do it and become one of the best in the world, and he starts at 19, why can't I at 16? So I just went along with my dad, who was doing jiu-jitsu at the time, and mate, I was like a duck to water, you know, I loved it. And from doing a couple sessions a week, before you knew it, I was doing 2 sessions a day, and next thing competing, and the rest is history.
Yeah, a blessing in disguise, kind of, so to say. I mean, with now, especially for athletes, I mean, across all sports, do you find that it's about kind of narrowing the gap with the athletes that might kind of fall off the tracks in a way, and you obviously being a consummate professional to stay in shape, stay active, stay engaged with the people around you? Is that an important, you feel like, aspect for you?
Yeah, for me, it's all about enjoyment. You know, there's a lot of people in this sport I know personally who don't enjoy it. There's people that, you know, they're not really making much money at all, and they're still doing it every day, and I don't really see why. You know, for me, a fight camp is all about making weight. And there's fighters out there that fight camp to them is training. You know, I love this, so I'm training twice a day now, regardless of whether I'm fighting or not. Yeah. And that's, again, that comes down to professionalism, you know. I want to be the best in the world, and I know that out there's some other fighter training in Brazil or America, and he's training his bollocks off. So for me, I've got to train hard, and I enjoy doing it. So I'm living the dream. But yeah, there's a lot of fighters out there where I question why they're doing it. They're not getting paid loads of money, and, you know, they're sitting there, and every time they come to training, it's, you know, it's a struggle to get them to do anything. And, you know, if you don't love what you do, then you shouldn't be doing it.
100%. Is that what motivates you to kind of get up in the morning, the passion and love for the sport? Is it kind of your long-term ambition to see what the likes of Demetrius Johnson has done to unify the division? He's gone, you know, and be a pay-per-view star, so to say. Is that what your ambitions are in the sport?
Yeah, and I'm not a lazy person, or I don't know what the word is, but even now in lockdown, if I have an hour sitting down watching telly, I'm itching to do something, whether that's read a book or go and learn a language or start cooking. I need to do something. I'm very active, and I'm very competitive. So that's, I guess, why I do so well in this sport, is because it's the most competitive sport there is in the world. And, you know, for me, there's always something you can be learning or doing. And that's what I love about it. There's so much involved. So you can never get bored. You know, you can never master any of these martial arts because there's so many that you have to do. So, you know, there's always something that I can be learning, whether I'm training with a beginner. Someone can always teach me something in this sport, and that's it's very refreshing.
I mean, we were on the phone the other day, and I saw you had all your dumbbells, your kettlebells, your attire, rope, you know, set out in the garden. Like, with, obviously, a lot of fighters talk about that they have to go to another country to starve them of their distractions, such as like Darren Till, for example, having to go over to like Brazil because he felt he needed to get out of his comfort zone. Do you find that you have that same problem, or are you quite comfortable being around your family, keeping self-motivated and just kind of getting the job done, as so to speak?
I prefer personally training at home. I have trained abroad before, and I can understand why some people like it, but for me, I want to be around family. I want to be around friends. And what I like to do as well is switch off when I come out of the gym. So I'm very professional in the sense where I come to the gym, I want to train. You know, I don't want to chat and mess about until the session's finished, and then I'm good to go. So, you know, our usual session starts at 10 and it's until 11:30. So from the moment it hits 10 o'clock, I don't want to mess about. I don't want to do any sort of silly games. I just want to work. And then when 11:30 comes, let's talk, let's play. And I just want to switch off, because as much as I love the sport, you can't let it consume you. And if you're always stressing about it, which I used to, you know, I was always constantly thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, or so-and-so got the better of me today. And it becomes very draining. So, you know, I like to get my sessions in, and then after, you know, crack on as normal and, you know, enjoy the other stuff. But I do take my my training very professionally.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of a true representation of where you've got to in the sport. I mean, not a lot of fighters can say, especially from Britain, we only kind of have a handful of fighters that have made it to that pinnacle of the UFC. And I feel like you kind of are, in a sense, you're kind of in that bracket to prove yourself and fulfill your potential in the sport from what I've seen. I mean, I would class myself as a casual UFC fan. Obviously, I come from the boxing side. So, I mean, for a boxing fan, we kind of feel like the sport is 90% mental, 10% physical. What would you say the proportion is in the UFC?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's exactly that. You can have an absolute specimen of an athlete. If he hasn't got the right mental attitude, you know, he's not going to make it in this sport. And I've had it as well. I've had a fight where I turned up to it and I probably had the best fight camp I've ever had. You know, the whole camp, I was smashing all my sessions. And that one fight, I didn't turn up on the night. I kind of walked into the fight already feeling like I'd won it, you know, maybe looking past my opponent, and I got caught in an armbar. And I just remember thinking like, oh shit, that's it. You know, I just done a 10-week fight camp. For what? I just lost. And, you know, that's where if you don't turn up on the night and you don't turn up 100% mentally ready, you may as well just, you know, not even bother.
Yeah. From what I've seen as well, watching like the UFC, is that there's so many different components to the sport, as opposed to like boxing. You can get caught with a big shot, especially like the heavyweights. You can get caught with a big shot, but then kind of come back with another. Like if you get hurt and rattled, you can come back with an equally powerful shot, and that could be the end of the fight. Whereas I think in the UFC, there's more like, although the stand-up game is very intriguing and exciting, getting it to the floor is a whole different level. I mean, I can't imagine being tossed on the floor, strangled, like all these different elements. I mean, what would you say your biggest strength is in terms of your arsenal? What would you say fighters should be kind of concerned about when they come up against you?
For me, it's my striking, but my grappling is equally as good. But what it is I prefer striking. I find that more enjoyable. So that's what, in a way, maybe I'd say sharper at. But I've been doing grappling just as long. So, you know, hence why I got all my submissions in the UFC. If I need to, I can. You know, I can grapple with someone just as good as I can strike. But I like to entertain the crowd. You know, I like to put on a show, and I want people to remember me for exciting fights. And I do feel that they prefer the striking. People prefer to see knockouts, I think, than submissions. So that for me is the main thing. And going back to what you said about, you know, obviously in boxing, you get like a 10 count, and in a way you can sometimes make a mistake. Ooh,
yeah.
Sorry, mate. You can make a mistake sometimes and come back from it.
Yeah.
Whereas in MMA, it really is a human game of chess. You can be winning the whole fight, and if you make one mistake at the end of it, that's it. It's done. You know, you get caught in a submission, that's it. And that's what I like about the sport, because it's always exciting. You never know what's going to happen in MMA. You know, I'd hate to put bets on MMA fights, because you never really can tell what's going to happen until the fight, you know, has happened.
I mean, how much of an impact is the ounce of the glove? I know the UFC. What do you guys operate in terms of that, like pro level? What is the ounce compared to like boxing? We have like 16 ounce, 12 ounce.
So we fight in 4 ounce gloves.
4 ounce gloves.
So very small. And it sucks because it hurts your hands. You know, you usually come out after a fight and you could have smashed the whole fight, and you come out and you got your hands in a bucket of ice. So, that's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing my homework on you. I've seen a lot of your up and coming fights. So I know you've kind of cruised through the Cage Warriors circuit. You had some explosive showreel knockouts, but you did make a transition to a former pro, a former very accomplished pro in Brad Pickett. He's now obviously your trainer. What's your relationship like with Brad? How much do you feel like you've come on since joining with him?
Oh, I've come on leaps and bounds since being with Brad. He's the best person that I could be training with in the UK, in my eyes, Europe, at my weight class. Obviously, when I first met Brad, he was still competing in the UFC. And, to be with a coach who's been there, done that, got the T-shirt, it's a big advantage. He knows what fighters are feeling on fight week. He knows what they're feeling on weight cut week. Everything about it, he's been there. And, not just in MMA, just outside in life in general, I take a lot from the guy, and, he's very wise in what he says.
Yeah. Is that what you need in terms of your background team, having the right people around you to push you, to drive you, but also give you that tutelage to kind of, solidify your future in terms of securing yourself a house, securing yourself the financial gains for your family? Is that what you need as an elite sportsman to get to that next level, to not be complacent and push on?
Yes, 100%. I always have some fans and stuff, and they message me and say, "Hey, what's your best advice in getting into the sport?" And I always say, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and always surround yourself with the right coaches. I've been around people that aren't really there for you, and you could just be wasting your time. So you kind of become, with the people that are around you, that's kind of, what adds to your game. So if you surround yourself with a lot of negative people, you're probably going to become very negative. And luckily for me now, I have the right team around me. I'm surrounded by nothing but professionals, and I feel everyone that I'm around now really does have my best interests at heart. And for me, that's it's definitely a confidence booster going into the fights.
Yeah. So where did the nickname The Prospect come from? Who gave you that one?
So my dad gave me that one. We was watching Sons of Anarchy at the time, and I remember in the show they had the prospects, and I know that prospects kind of it's deemed someone that's likely to succeed. So I said to Dad, "Hey, why don't I be the prospect?" And when it came to my first fight, and they said, "What's your nickname?" my dad just said, "Look, say the prospect," and it's stuck with me ever since. So even if I get UFC gold, I think it'll still stay with me.
So I'm sure that when you do go on to win that world title, maybe that nickname could go from the prospect to the true prospect, or the best prospect.
Yep, I'll have to have a think of that when it comes, but it'll be a good problem to have.
You heard it here first. So Nathaniel, we're going to move on to talk about your weight division. Obviously, the champion at the moment, Henry Cejudo. I hope I pronounced that right. He's obviously at the top of the pecking order. You're obviously still waiting to break through onto the sort of top 15 in the world. What would you like to sort of see your next, say, 6 to 12 months when this whole coronavirus kind of is kind of put under the surface?
For me, I definitely want to get in the top 10. Obviously, I want to get to that number 1 spot, but there's no point in me asking for the fight against Henry Cejudo, because I'm not going to get it. So if the UFC can give me anyone in the top 5, I think I might be ranked 17th. So yeah, ideally, anyone ranked above me should put me in that top 15. And obviously, I want to get to the top 10. The idea was that I get to the top 10 this year, but no one expected for this pandemic to happen. So, we're kind of going off that, I guess. But, I feel that anyone in them bantamweight rankings, I can definitely put a beating on. And, I didn't get the last win, but, I'm hungrier than ever. And, the comeback's going to be beautiful.
Definitely. Do you know what? I have to say, looking from the out to inside, like UFC, it seems that everyone is willing to fight the best. It doesn't, like in boxing, you've got like so many different governing bodies with world titles. There's about 5 different titles. No one can really establish who the number 1 until they fight. And there's also a lot of contractual issues, networking clashes. But with the UFC, it's under one banner. Everyone has to sort of state their claim as the number 1. That's what I have to say is probably the best thing about sport, is that you guys get the opportunity to fight the best? I mean, say for example, you were to get the phone call tomorrow from Dana, and he was like, Nathaniel, I've got this this guy in the top 10. He's looking to kind of give you the opportunity to fight him, to get up the rankings, elevate yourself to that next level. Would you be more than happy to take that fight?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what, you know, the sport, the UFC, it stands for Ultimate Fighting Championship. You know, we all want to be the ultimate fighter. And, you know, you can only, what's the word? If you want to be number one, you've got to beat number one.
Yeah.
And I know so many people that duck fights, and you're never going to be the champ until you beat the champ. So I truly do believe that I can become the best in the world. And if you believe that, then you should never be worried about fighting anyone. Because let's say tomorrow I fight the guy who's number 2. If he beats me, well, then I definitely weren't going to get the shot against number 1. So, you know, I'm confident in my skill set. If I was 18 years old and had just come into the scene, then maybe I'd be a little bit more wary of who I fight. But, you know, I'm in my prime. I'm ready to fight, you know, Henry Cejudo tomorrow if it came down to it. So whoever the UFC give me, whoever they offer me, 100% I'll accept it.
Yeah, let's step away from the fighting now and let's talk about another fight that you had on your hands the other day. I know your good pal Sonny went through a very traumatic experience. I see you guys make him do a forfeit, but you had an own challenge of yourself. I mean, how was the sort of aftertaste of that chili that you swallowed?
Mate, the Scotch Bonnet Challenge killed me. That's really hot. That was probably the worst fight I've ever had. Some people were sitting there saying, nah, it's not that hot, mate. That thing destroyed me, and it destroyed me the next morning. And I know it did the same for Sonny. So, you know, I hope people do go and check it out, subscribe, because I ain't doing that again. You know, that's put me off tasting chilies for a while. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's all good fun. You know, we're doing this YouTube stuff, and it kills a bit of time. You know, as I say, I hate not doing anything. And, you know, if I can go and have a mess about, put it up, and some people find it entertaining, then, you know, that's a good job done.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great way to kind of be creative and just, I mean, there's obviously a lot of people out there that are like kind of finding it difficult to get into a routine and finding it difficult to, you know, manage with this. Because, I mean, a lot of people have large families. It's difficult when kids are not in schools and they're having to look after 4 or 5 children. But obviously, like, you guys are looking to kind of see the funny side of things and try and sort of cheer people up, put a smile on their face, so to say. And I mean, if it affects one person in a positive way, then I'm sure you guys are probably more than happy to see the videos continue.
Yeah, that's all you can do. It's a shit situation at the moment, and it really is. You know, I really do feel for the people out there who, you know, maybe have their loved ones who are ill, or they may be living on their own. You know, 100%. I understand that is, no one wants to go through that, but, you know, we're all in a bad situation, and we just got to make the best of what we can do. And, you know, if that means just doing a few little videos here and there to cheer people up, then, you know, count me in. I enjoy doing it, and it keeps me busy. So, you know, you'll see some more challenges coming up, but no more Scotch bonnets for me.
I was kind of hoping we could do a round 2, because, I mean, I've got a few Scotch bonnets downstairs, but maybe I might have to do that myself.
You do one, tell me how it goes, and then, you know, I'll do one again after.
I will do 100%. A little bit kind of closer to home. I know the pandemic's put everything on lock and events have been postponed, but there was one fight that was scheduled for the O2 Arena between Tyron Woodley and Leon Edwards. That's been cancelled. I know you've got a massive fan base in the UK. Would you have been looking to kind of get on that card if it materialised?
Yeah, I was screaming and shouting to get on that one that got cancelled. Obviously, I never got matched in the end, and the show didn't happen. So, you know, I guess it was a blessing in disguise that I didn't actually get matched. But if that happens again, then definitely count me in. I always like performing in front of my hometown, and, you know, there's nothing better than having the UK crowd behind you.
Definitely. Well, have you got a last message for your fans that might be tuning in to this interview, and also just kind of a positive message to give to everyone during quarantine?
Just thanks for tuning in, and I honestly wish everyone the best in such a bad time at the moment. You know, it's a crazy, crazy time, and I'm not doing too bad at the moment mentally. stuck in quarantine, but I know for some people out there, especially living on their own, you know, it must be very hard. So just stay strong, and, you know, we're going to get through this together. So just remember that.
Definitely. Shout out your social media and also sponsors for us so that we can give them a follow as well.
My social media is at The Prospect MMA, and then on Facebook it's just Nathaniel The Prospect Wood. And a big shout out to my sponsors, TCA. They're my clothing brand that have been sponsoring me. Big shout out to my sports physio, Umut, my osteopath, Neil Patel, Vigor 8, AJ Wakeford, who is a sponsor for me from Red King. He's been looking after me since day one. Scramble, you know, they supply the best grappling equipment and clothing. And I'm going to forget someone, so I'm going to stop there before I do. My manager, Elite MMA. And thank you yourself for having me on.
Thanks very much, mate. I want to wish you you and your family all the best for the remainder of quarantine. Hopefully it's sooner than we expect. But again, Nathaniel, pleasure to have you on the platform. It's my first UFC fighter that I've spoken to, so I feel honoured. And hopefully we see you at those.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Top man, thanks for speaking to the fight business. Cheers, mate.
Thank you, mate. See you soon.
Mate. Cheers. See you soon. Bye.